All right, now that we're done with the outer door skin with the ResoNix CLD squares and ResoNix Guardian treatment, we can move on to the door panel. Door panel is going to be pretty straightforward. We're going to be using ResoNix CLD squares again to reduce the resonance of the plastic panel. And then on top of that, we're going to be doing ResoNix Fiber Matte 25. This is going to be the sound absorber and decoupler for this part of the door. We're also going to be using small amounts of two other products, ResoNix Butyl rope, which is going to be used to get stuffed in between little overlapping pieces of plastic to prevent them from rattling and buzzing against each other, as well as ResoNix CCF Decoupler 3S. This is a very thin and very soft closed cell foam that also has the purpose of preventing small buzzes and rattles. That's going to be on very select areas, but yeah, it's going to be pretty straightforward. Remember, large pieces of CLD, small pieces are they're not going to do anything, not worth your time, not worth your effort. So yeah, let's dive right into it. And actually, before we do that, be careful, where you're placing your products. You don't want to be covering any important clips or any hooks. This door panel hooks on, it doesn't clip in. You also don't want to be covering any service points like the speaker or the wire clips or anything like that. Anything that can jam up the door latch. Just be mindful about what you're doing. Obviously, I'm going to have video and photo of what I did so you can mimic that. But again, don't just be a cowboy and wing it. Plan this out, be meticulous, or else it might come back to bite you in the butt. So yeah, let's get into this and see what we can do. All right, so we just finished up the ResoNix Butyl rope and ResoNix CCF Decoupler 3S installation on the door panel. So let me show you exactly what I did. Any of these little gaps where you have like plastic panels overlapping, you just take the ResoNix Butyl rope and just shove it in between it. It acts as a decoupler and prevents transfer of energy from one panel to the other. It prevents buzzes, rattles, and even some resonance. So I did it in here. I also have some right in here, and then also in here, and then in here as well. And also right down here. Beware of doing it near the speaker grill. You don't want, butyl rubber, protruding through. This stuff will not melt, by the way. It's, well capable of handling the automotive environment, but you still don't want to do it near the speaker grill because, when you put pressure on it, it's just going to poke through it, kind of like Play-Doh. And then for the CCF Decoupler 3S, we have these little areas up here that, rest against, I'm pretty sure they rest against some metal. So I just, cut some small pieces of this very soft and very thin foam that we offer and just place them right where, there might be contact points. It's a quick and simple solution to any potential buzzes or rattles. I would do some right here, but we're going to be doing fiber matte there anyway, so we don't really need to. And yeah, so now we're going to move on to the CLD and fiber matte installation. All right, we just finished the ResoNix CLD squares installation on the door panel. I just want to go over a few things before we move on to the fiber matte installation. As you can see, I tried to do as large of pieces as possible. Again, I cannot state the importance of this enough. The reason these products work is because of how the piece constrains the panel it is applied to. To make it really simple, picture a bunch of little kids trying to give you a hug versus Andre the Giant trying to give you the hug. You know, bigger piece is going to be able to constrict and constrain that panel much better than a bunch of little pieces speckled all over the place, you know. So doing like little tiny pieces in here, on here, like in here, it doesn't do anything. So we just stuck to the large flat areas. We had 4 main areas, you know, right up here, down here, and then towards the speaker. And you could see I was pretty meticulous with the install over here. And again, the same reason is, you know, we want one continuous piece that's as large as possible. You can also see that I overlapped from like one panel onto like the seams. Think of that as like the crash bar butyl rope installation. We're trying to bridge the gap from one panel to the next and use this material to essentially strengthen them together. So yeah, now we are ready for the FiberMat 25 installation. And that's gonna be pretty straightforward. So also I wanna point out, you know, I don't know if you saw or paid attention, whatever. I know some people kind of skip through these videos, but I used one of the sheets, one of the backing sheets from the CLD to create this template. You know, it helps you create complex shapes, and then instead of just futzing around with the CLD and cutting every which way, you can just cut it on a piece of paper that comes with it and make it perfect. You know, pretty easy. So yeah, onto the FiberMat. All right, so moving on to the ResoNix FiberMat 25 installation on the door panel. It is on the surface pretty simple. It's just cut, peel, stick, done. But we do have to keep in mind there's a few things that, you know, can be thrown off here. First thing we need to keep in mind is the gap between the door panel and the inner door skin. That gap will vary in different parts of the door. In some areas, you'll have plenty of space where you can do multiple layers. In some areas, you might not be able to do any layers. We also have to be mindful of door panel clips, or in the case of this 911, the hooks. We have to keep those free and clear so the door can go back on with no problem. And we also have to be mindful of various service points, whether it's wire harnesses or the speakers or door latches and cables and, you know, various things that you might find in a door. You know, you need to be mindful of these things while installing this. So please, you know, be meticulous. You know, don't just run and gun it. You know, be mindful of everything that's going on with this door and, you know, what this door really needs and what kind of space it needs in order to function. And once you have that all figured out, you can go ahead and start your installation of the FiberMat. So like I said, once you have all that figured out, it's really straightforward. Cut it to shapes, peel it, stick it. You know, you do want as much coverage as possible, of course, without impeding the operation of the door. But you do not want it too thick to the point where it has to really, really compress when reinstalling the door panel. Since this material is made out of little tiny fibers, as we compress them, they become more constricted. As they're constricted, they are unable to deform and move as sound travels through them. Those deformations and, you know, the movement of these fibers is what absorbs sound as it passes through. It converts sound energy into mechanical energy and thermal energy on, you know, small scales. Without these little fibers being able to do their thing, it's not really going to absorb as much sound as it should. So, you know, you can do multiple layers in different areas where there are large gaps between the door panel and the inner door skin. But in areas that are tight, you know, you don't want to compact this down. You don't want to make this like a, you know, project to get the door panel back on, because if it's too tight to where you struggle to get the door panel back on, it's probably compressing the material too much, or at least in one area, to where it's not going to be as effective. And if it is compressing it, obviously it's going to compress it in some areas. That's inevitable, and that's okay. But packing up the door everywhere to where all of it is super tight isn't very beneficial unless you're more so going for door panel stability as opposed to sound absorption. Different aspects, different ways to sound treat a car, and for different reasons. I can see why, one might not be as concerned with sound absorption in a car where you're doing a competition level car audio system that has door mounted mid bass drivers. In that case, you really want the door panel as stable as possible, and you're not concerned with outside noise entering in. So in those situations, yeah, sure, but for the sake of quieting down a car, you want the material to be as lofted as possible. So yeah, I think that covers everything, and let's start the install. All right, we are done with the fiber mat installation on the front door panels. As you can see, we have 3 main sections. One is the large area towards the back of the door panel. This was pretty easy and pretty straightforward. I stayed away from this top area because I know the inner door skin kind of bulges out right here, and I definitely want to test that and maybe do a strip after. I just got to see what's going on. But yeah, just cut around the hooks, cut around the speaker, cut around any wiring and service areas. This is the second area, small little spot right in between the mid-range speaker and mid-bass speaker. Still have all of my wiring service points and areas, and this is the third area. As you saw in the time lapse, I took the same piece of template paper that I used for the CLD and just traced and cut the fiber mat. By the way, I am using these Tajima insulation scissors. These were ordered on Amazon. They come from Japan, but these things cut through insulation materials of all types like butter. So highly recommend using these. It made easy work of cutting all of this out, even these fine little areas, super easy. So yeah, that's pretty much it. As you can see, I stayed away from this whole area because unfortunately in this car there's just so many service points that I don't, and moving parts as well. I just don't want to mess with this. So yeah, time to get it installed.